I've been talking a lot lately about what to look for, like how much experience is required to make sure that you're getting the guidance that you're paying for. And I talk about 5 years and at least 100 trades, and both, not just 5 years and not just 100 trades, but both are required. And the reason is really I'm seeing it right now in the marketplace, especially the 5-year one. So if you've been in the business for 3 years, 4 years, in a lot of professions, that's a reasonable amount of time. I'm seeing a lot of agents right now that are dealing with this transitionary market for the first time in their lives. I think of, might be a harsh example, but let's think of a general, who's only been a general of an army during peace times, and now that's shifting to war times. Well, they're going to be at a real deficit of experience as we shift from peace times to war times. And, maybe a harsh example, but the market we're in now is shifting from extreme seller's market with low inventory and the motivation to buy was embedded in the market to a very different time. There's agents that have been in this marketplace for 3 years that are writing their first offer conditional on due diligence, their first subject to offers, right? It's the first time they've actually had to negotiate the opportunity for their client to do a home inspection or to get approval from their lender. They've been in the business 3 years, and this is the first time that they're having to experience that. There's been agents that are in the business 3-4 years that have done a small handful of home inspection walkthroughs with a qualified home inspector, and there's a lot of learning to be had by doing a lot of home inspections, by negotiating a lot of offers subject to due diligence, by opening up hundreds of doors before you ever get to the contract. And so look, I'm not here to say that new agents don't deserve the opportunity to gain experience. Of course they do. But when they tend to all charge the same fee, which is very much the case in many real estate markets, I don't want you to have to be the experiment for them to gain their education. If you're making $1 million real estate decision, you need someone that's done hundreds of inspection walkthroughs, that's negotiated hundreds of contracts subject to a home inspection, subject to financing, right? That they're earning a substantial fee. And so your job as the consumer, in my opinion, is to make sure that expert is being vetted for capabilities. Because look, the license, just having a license or just being affiliated with a successful brokerage does not in any way determine their capabilities. And really, when fees are all the same, or traditionally or quite often are all the same, it really kind of shifts the onus onto the consumer to make sure that they're asking the right questions and that they're taking the time to find the agent with the experience that's going to help guide them on whatever decision in front of them. When I started in real estate, it was April of 2008, and for those that follow markets, they know that was a really, really tough time. It was one of the biggest real estate market crashes in recent history. That was literally the day I started in my career, and I remember experienced agents back then would always look at me and say, "You're lucky, that's a great time to start." And I always felt like, I think I know what they're saying, but it sure felt like the worst time to start, and I won't get too much into that story, but I had just bought my first house, we just had our first child born, I just moved to the town of Nanaimo, I didn't know anybody, so the market crash of the time felt like it was the worst thing that could happen to me. But listening to those agents tell me, it was the experienced agent telling me how lucky I was, I can look back now and say, you know what, they were right. It was a really lucky time for me. And the reason why it was a lucky time for me is because it really prepared me for what we're going through now. It gave me the opportunity to feel what a deep, deep buyer's market feels like. Showing 14 homes in one day, 6 days in a row, is enjoyable now. I found joy in that. Negotiating lowball offers over and over and over again before one finally gets accepted. The fortitude to do that was that I was afforded to by that down market. These are skills that are really coming out now. Consulting with sellers that are losing money, that bought for more than their home is currently worth. Those are hard conversations, especially for a new agent, of which I was back then. Those are hard conversations to have now, and having spent my formative years as an agent back in 2008, 9, 10, all the way to the bottom of the market in 2013, give me perspective that I'm sure glad I have now as we head into a transitioning year and a potentially challenging 2023. So to circle back to the analogy of the general in war, and I feel pretty grateful now in hindsight to have developed my skills as an agent in so-called war times, because as we come out of peaceful times and we head is likely going to be the market equivalent of war times, I feel very prepared. I feel very prepared in terms of what my business is going to have to go through, and I feel very prepared in terms of the difficult conversations ahead of me and ahead of my clients as we try to navigate, as we go through these challenging times, to try to come out on the other side in as best position as we can.